Imagine a fortress so massive its walls could fit two chariots racing side by side, an impenetrable shield of stone, yet it fell without a single stone being thrown. Welcome back to our channel. Today we step back over 3,000 years into the burning sands of Canaan to witness the most miraculous siege in human history. The Israelites had just crossed the Jordan River. Ahead of them lay their greatest obstacle. Jericho was the gateway to the Promised Land, and it was completely shut tight in fear. No one went out and no one came in. Inside, the citizens of Jericho watched from high battlements, their hearts melting with fear, yet confident in their unbreakable defenses. For Joshua, military strategy seemed useless. How do you conquer a city wrapped in layers of fortified rock with a nation of former nomads? He needed a miracle. Suddenly a figure appeared before him, a man standing with a drawn sword in his hand. Joshua approached him, unsure if this mysterious warrior was friend or foe. "Are you for us or for our adversaries?" Joshua asked. The warrior replied, "Neither. But as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come." Joshua fell on his face to the earth in worship. The commander told him, "Take off your sandals from your feet, for the place where you are standing is holy." And Joshua did so. The Lord then revealed a battle plan unlike any other in history. No siege ramps, no battering rams. Instead, a silent march that would test the faith of every Israelite. The instructions were specific. For 6 days, the armed men would march around the city once a day. Leading the procession would be 7 priests carrying trumpets of ram's horns. Behind the priests, the Ark of the Covenant, the very presence of God on earth, would be carried by the Levites. It was a holy procession, not a military charge. The most agonizing rule of all? Complete and utter silence. Not a word was to be spoken. No shouting, no whispering, only the sound of marching feet. On the morning of the first day, the gates of Jericho remained shut. Suddenly, the lookout guards saw a massive cloud of dust rising from the desert horizon. The Israelite army emerged from the dust, but instead of charging the gates with ladders and weapons, they simply began to walk in a massive circle around the city. The only sound echoing through the valley was the eerie, rhythmic blast of the 7 rams' horns, piercing the heavy silence of the desert air. Inside Jericho, the people watched from the walls. At first, they were terrified, waiting for the sudden attack. But as the hours passed, nothing happened. After completing exactly 1 circle around the city, the Israelite army turned around and marched back to their camp. Day 1 was over. Jericho remained standing. By the 3rd and 4th days, the fear inside Jericho began to turn into mockery. The defenders on the wall started laughing at the silent marchers below. Imagine the psychological test for the Israelites. Rocks and insults could be thrown at them, yet they had to hold their tongues and trust Joshua's bizarre orders. But this silence wasn't weakness, it was discipline. It was the quiet before the storm. Every step was building a spiritual pressure cooker around the doomed city. By the 5th and 6th days, the mockery from the walls died down. The absolute silence of the Israelites became terrifying. It felt unnatural, like a curse. Then came the 7th day. The dawn had barely broken when Joshua woke the army. Today was different. Today, they wouldn't march just once. The instructions for the 7th day were grueling. They were to encircle the city 7 times, the ultimate endurance test of faith, physical strength, and patience. Round 1, round 2. The morning heat began to bake the valley. The dust cloud raised by thousands of feet was now so thick, it nearly hid the city. Round 3, round 4, the muscles of the older priests ached under the weight of the ark. But their pace never slackened. Their hearts beat with anticipation. Inside the city, the tension reached a breaking point. The constant, unending blast of the shofars was driving the inhabitants of Jericho to madness. Round 5, round 6. The Israelites had now been marching for hours without rest. Yet supernatural strength seemed to fill their weary limbs. Finally, the 7th circuit began. The atmosphere was electric. Every man, woman, and child in the region knew that the climax of this week-long drama was seconds away. Joshua stepped to the front of the line. He raised his hand, his spear pointing directly at the massive iron-reinforced gates of Jericho. Joshua drew a deep breath and roared with a voice that echoed across the plains. "Shout! For the Lord has given you the city!" The 7 priests raised their shofars to the sky. Together, they blew one final, massive, continuous blast that shattered the silence of the valley. And then the people shouted, hundreds of thousands of voices, holding back their cries for 7 days, unleashed a roar like thunder. The sound waves rolled across the desert floor, hitting the stone walls of Jericho with the force of 1,000 modern earthquakes. Deep beneath the earth, the foundations of Jericho began to groan. Tiny fractures appeared at the base of the massive double walls. The cracks spread upwards like lightning strikes. The proud, impenetrable walls of Jericho were vibrating violently, turning into fragile glass. On top of the battlements, the Canaanite soldiers lost their footing. Weapons flew from their hands as the very stone beneath them turned to liquid. Then came the collapse, not an inward push, but an outward explosion. The walls literally fell down flat, imploding into a ramp of rubble. The physics of the fall were miraculous. The stones leveled themselves out, creating a perfect ramp for the Israelite army to march straight up into the city, except for one small section. The house of Rahab, built directly into the city wall, stood completely untouched amidst the surrounding ruin. Through the blinding fog of dust, Joshua gave the final order. "Go up, every man straight before him." The siege was over. The takeover had begun. The Israelite soldiers charged up the makeshift stone ramps. The defenders of Jericho, paralyzed by shock and terror, could offer no resistance. Just as promised, Joshua sent the 2 spies to rescue Rahab and her family. Because of her faith, she was saved from the total destruction. By sunset, the once mighty fortress of Jericho was nothing but ash and smoke rising into the Canaanite sky, a symbol of human pride leveled by divine power. The fall of Jericho became a legendary warning to all the kingdoms of Canaan. Israel's God didn't need conventional armies, he needed faith. Archaeologists today still debate the ruins of this ancient city, finding unique evidence of walls that fell outward, exactly as the text describes. The story of Jericho remains one of the ultimate testaments to the power of obedience, patience, and unwavering faith against impossible odds. What walls are standing in your life today? Remember, sometimes the victory doesn't require fighting. It requires standing still, trusting the process, and waiting for the right moment to shout. If this epic journey inspired your faith today, smash that like button, subscribe for more epic biblical histories, and drop a comment below on what story we should cover next. Keep marching.